Call to order this public hearing. Today's public hearing is convened under the provisions of the Local Government Act of British Columbia to hear submissions relative to the proposed bylaws. All persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters in the proposed bylaw. I would ask those members of the public who wish to speak to commence your address to this board by clearly stating your name and address. There is also a sign-in sheet on the podium. Please provide your name and address in written form as well. The board will not debate the matters of a proposed bylaw with individual citizens, but members may ask questions of you following your presentation. The main function of this public hearing is to listen to your views. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. The first hearing, Temporary Use Permit Bylaw number 2897, 2025. TUP number 81 would enable seasonal asphalt production, operation between April 1st and November 1st, for a term of up to 3 years at the subject property on Highway 97, Hamilton Hill, BC. Madam Corporate Officer, we have written submissions.
That is correct. We received 2 written submissions prior to the deadline. They have been added to the agenda.
Thank you. Are there any in-person submissions? Sir, gentleman in the baseball cap first, gentleman in the fawn jacket second, lady in the front row in the middle third. Sorry, I'm going by the order in which the hands went up, unless you'd like that gentleman to go first, certainly. If you could state your name and address, sir, and if you could also please write it on the sheet provided.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Randy Ryzak. My address is 5560 Manning Creek FSR Road in Merritt. I'm the president of Corbett Lake Lodge and also a co-owner. Before I get into why I'm here to dispute the location of the asphalt plant, I would like to give a general description of where Corbett Lake is, a little bit about the lodge and what we do, and then I'll get into the area that I'm objecting to. So Corbett Lake Lodge is approximately 15 minutes off the connector from Merritt. It's the first lake on your left. It's a man-made lake. It's a reservoir that I think that was built by Nicola Ranch back in 1920s. For irrigation purposes. Since about 50 some years ago, Corbett Lake Lodge was built, and I believe we're the 3rd owner now, and we've owned it for approximately 13 years. The lake is approximately 65 acres. It's crystal clear water, doesn't get an algae bloom. It's spring fed. However, in the spring and in the fall, if you get torrential rains or quick thaws and that, we do have the water from the side hills leaching into or running into the lake. I'd like to give you an insight as to what type of events we've hosted in the past and into the future. We've had the World Masters Fly Fishing Championships held there in 2023. You had 13 different countries attending. the Canadian International Fly Fishing Championships, the North American Lock Style Championships, the BC Fly Fishing Championships, BC Federation of Fly Fishers, and various other groups, weddings and retreats. As far as filming goes, the lake has been featured in many TV fishing shows with Phil Rowley, Brian Chan, Brendan Morrison, Real West Coast Fishing, Fishing with Ladin, Washington, USA, Gary Cooper, Nice Fish Show, plus many other marketing presentations. The lake is privately stocked. We put fish in a minimum of 2 pounds up to 10. And that's one of the reasons why I guess it attracts so many of these international groups and local groups to want to come and fish there. We're not opposed to the gravel pit being there, even though it does create a noise problem and a dust problem from time to time when they're operating. But we do not want to see an asphalt plant in that location. One of the reasons is to prevent the harm it can do to the lake. It can damage the fish stocks and the insects that support the fishery if there's oil leaching into the lake. And there are other concerns that we have, noise pollution. When it's operating, you can hear the trucks backing up, beep, 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 beep. It takes the ambience away from the guests that are fishing on the lake. Air pollution. You know, I was just thinking on the way up here, if somebody was cooking bacon at the site where they want to put this asphalt plant and you were at the end on the lake, you'd be able to smell that. And it wouldn't be so bad. But just think when you got to smell oil, hot oil, and the hot gases that come off those stacks. Toxic fumes. The other issue we have is that the lake is kind of in between 2 hills. We got the highway and the hill on the one side, and we have the other hill on the other side. And the winds blow generally from the northwest down the lake. So this is what's going to bring all these toxic fumes onto the lake and have an issue with our guests. Now, I mentioned before that in the spring, when the ground is frozen and we have a snow melt, the water runs down the hill into the lake. And the asphalt plant is from the diagram I have is going to be situated, it looks to me, on the high side of a water course, and the gravel is on the other side. So what will happen is any oil that's spilt on the ground, and we all know that you cannot operate a plant without having some spills. And that's going to get washed into the water course and it's going to go into the lake. The other issue is if we have a large rainstorm in the spring and the lake gets full up, it overflows because remember it's a dam and it goes down into Courtney Lake. So if Corbett Lake gets polluted, Courtney Lake gets polluted. So based on the information that I've given you, I trust that you'll vote against having this plant there. There's many gravel pits where they could relocate. The Shack and Indian Band on Highway 8 has a large plant. Rock Solid has their own gravel pit in Lower Nicola. The Dot Pit on Highway 8, they could relocate there. There's another gravel pit on the Coldwater. There's another gravel pit at Loon Lake Cutoff. And we just feel that this is in the wrong place for a gravel pit based on the people that have to live around it and the guests that we bring into the Nicola Valley, which is approximately 1,200 to 1,600 guests a year. And I'll tell you right now, if they knew that this was going on, you wouldn't be able to stand in here. It'd be full of all our clients. So again, I trust that the board will vote in our favor and this plant can go somewhere else. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Any of the three directors online? Director Sal.
Thank you, Chair. Through to the society. I wonder, so the mine permit processing, was there also a similar public engagement period where they made similar presentation to some sort of mine permit committee?
That I'm unaware. I mean, I don't even know. There hasn't even been an impact environmental study.
Does anyone else have any questions? Director Getz?
This would be for Mr. Kraus, I think. When we were building in Merritt after the flood and we have everybody close to the river, they're required to put oil separators underground if they're building a development. Is that required here as well?
Through the chair, we have no real mechanism to require that. And I think one of the things you'll see in the report is that uniquely processing of agri-materials is permitted in the rural zone currently. And so any of these processing pits or mines that have a mines permit from the province are allowed to have temporary asphalt production. So we're not even involved in most of the asphalt or concrete production facilities that pop up. The difference here is the applicant has said they'd like to keep it there for more than 6 months a year and even keep the equipment through the winter. And that's what's led to this application today. So it's a bit of a unique situation in that we're not normally involved in asphalt production facilities. But here what they're asking for is to go beyond what's already allowed under zoning.
Thank you.
See, another thing. You know, what would happen if there was an employee that had something against the company that was there, and on Friday night, they went down and opened up the valve to the big tank, and I'm talking, this is a big oil tank, and all that oil drained out onto the gravel base. I mean, that's something that could happen. There's no supervision there. That would ruin the lake, because the oil would permeate through the gravel into the lake.
Thank you. I have Director.
To me, this is insane to even think about having that type of a dirty industry even placed on agricultural land. And I'm a rancher myself, okay? And there's one thing I would never do is I don't want to have anything to do with oil on any of the properties that I own. Because what that does is it creates an issue where, an environmental issue. And I know that if there was oil spilt on the ground, it would be covered up. Because they're not going to haul it away. They're going to, this is my assumption, they just cover it up. And at the end of the time when the pit, they're finished with their lease, they just put the dirt over top and call it a day.
Thank you. I have Director Thorpe and then Director Sarai. Director Thorpe.
Thank you. So just to be really clear on this, if they had decided to go from April through to the end of October, would this have even come to us? And is there any mechanism that we could potentially use that would stop them from just going April to October and just moving the equipment? I mean, is there anything that we can do if the board should choose to do, or should choose to go in that direction?
Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Apologies, Director Thorpe. Debate and discussion, questions
No, it's
regarding
right.
the public
This
hearing
was for-
matters. It should only be questions to the
sorry,
speakers or the
for-
proponents that should be discussed afterwards.
Okay, so
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to figure out how to word this. So to be clear then, if this was not going to be keeping the equipment there year round, would this have come to us?
Through the chair, no. The processing of aggregate material as allowed on this, in this zoning and all rural zones would enable a concrete plant or an asphalt production plant for up to 6 months per year.
Director Sarai, I understand you've put your hand down.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think I will ask this question to staff. You said the temporary use, if it was shorter duration, it wouldn't be before us, but because they're asking for a longer, will they require monitoring if this is a longer requirement?
Can I call a point of order? This is a public hearing, and so we shouldn't be asking questions of staff, just listening to speakers, receiving information back. Not questioning staff, not debating.
I'd just like to mention that we operate from the 1st of April to the end of October, same time the plant is going to be operating.
There will be an opportunity to talk to staff about matters when it comes up again. This is just a public hearing. Okay, Director Sal?
Sorry, I do have a question for the speakers, public speakers. They are not in favor of.
Just a moment,
Oh.
just a moment. Sir, gentleman who was just speaking, Director Sal's got a question for you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I got a question for you, sir.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify, currently the TUP is asking for a longer duration of operation of that asphalt plant. Yes, we understand that. But is your organization then okay with them operating in the shorter period, which they are already zoned for? Are you against any kind of operation of asphalt? Thank you. Just for clarity.
We're
Thank you.
against, us and our neighbors are against any operation of an asphalt plant. They are based on the damage it could do to the ecology of the lake, as well as affecting our business. Okay. And furthermore, how could the asphalt plant be approved without an environmental study done? I know if I'm a land developer and I want to develop a piece of property, I got to do that. And the gentleman to my left, he said the only reason why we're having this public hearing is because they want to stay for a 3-year term. Well, I know for a fact that the applicant, which is Rock Solid Industries, is going to sublease to the new company, Lisi, which is a French company, which now owns the paving company. And they're looking for a permanent home. Okay, so they're not just looking at a 3-year term. They got another option, I believe. And then possibly another option, depends on whether the landowner gives it to them.
Excuse me, sir, this is a land use decision. We can't have speculation about what might happen and who might be leasing to whom, because that has nothing to do with this and we don't know that.
Okay,
So, thank you.
any other questions?
I have Director Karpak.
Thank you, Chair. Question to our speaker here. Thank you for coming out, presenting your case. If you're willing to share, about what's the economic impact if this were to kill your business? What would that mean for loss of employees or economic value? Have you ever looked at that? I'm just curious.
Well, we look at many things. We look at our customers, some of them have come in there for 40 years. Okay, and they've also have relationships with others that come there. So what would happen is, and this is my assumption, is they will come this year, coming year. The plant will be operating. They'll be spelling the fumes because majority of our customers fish at the north end of that lake because it's shallow and there's a lot of aquatic insects there. They'll smell that. They're not going to be happy. They're going to tell their friends that come to the lake as well, and they're not going to want to come anymore. Okay, why would you? You go down the end, you get the fumes, your eyes are gonna start stinging, you might get a sore throat. You've got all the extra noise. Now what about our guests? They go down into Merritt. They go and buy liquor, they go to restaurants, they buy gasoline, well, you name it. So there's an impact there. And they also go fishing in the other lakes if they're just vacationing. So what is it gonna cost us? I can't really put a handle on it because I'd just be guessing.
Thank you. Does anyone else have question for the speaker? No, thank you very much, sir.
Great, thank you.
Gentleman in the back row with the baseball cap was next. All right. I was doing it by the order in which people put hands up, but if you have another order that you've all agreed on, that is perfectly fine. If you could state your name and address, sir, and please write your name on the sheet on the lectern.
My name is Al Prentice and right? Oh, okay. And Ryan here. My name is Al Prentice and my wife is Marilyn. We reside at 544 Harlemore Drive, and our property is directly situated across the highway from the proposed asphalt plant. Me and Marilyn and myself have three main concerns with this. And one of them first one is health. Living near an asphalt plant can experience symptoms from short to long-term exposures to the toxic fumes such as eyes, respiratory irritation, headaches, nausea, and an increased risk of cancer. The potential for health effects in the elderly is a great concern. While not all fumes are toxic, they can also produce symptoms of anxiety, sleeplessness, and affected quality of life. Populations that are more vulnerable to the air pollution in general include people with lung diseases, are prone to respiratory infections, people with heart and blood vessel problems, people who have had a heart attack or stroke or are older adults. Missions indicate that there is potential health to concerns. And this street that I'm on, there's only 4 of us on there, and 3 of us families are all elderly and retired and getting close to possibly selling there, to move out. I have my one neighbor, he's extremely ill and he's trying to sell his house. And when something like this happens, your property value is going down. It's going to be pretty hard to sell. Second thing is quality of life and enjoyment of your property. 16 years ago, we purchased our 6-acre property. At that time, our new property was literally a junkyard and a garbage dump. We removed 22,000 pounds of scrap metal and hauled away loads of garbage to the dump. Cross-fenced it. We built outdoor riding arenas, open pen, horse shelters, and a hay barn. We spend our days outside, especially in the summer, working on the farm and riding horses, hiking and fishing. Many people visit our farm during the summer months, enjoying all the same activities that we do. Having an asphalt plant directly across from us, spewing strong toxic fumes, would greatly impact the quality of life and enjoyment of our property that we continuously work to improve. Just picture a moment driving down the highway on a hot summer day and coming to an asphalt paving. I think strong smell, not pleasant, it is. And then decreased property values. As we are now in our 70s, we would know that our time is limited on the farm. We have invested our life savings into our home and farm to ensure that we have a financial security that we may live in comfort in the future. No matter what that looks like or what that may be, we fear that with the asphalt plant polluting the clean, fresh air, we will not be able to sell out the property at the price that we will afford us comfort, in the future. And I did work for a paving company for 5 years, and I do have lung problems from that. I know what it causes. I know how these operations operate and the messes that happen. It's unavoidable. And this is not the location for that. I have some other concerns too. The increased truck traffic, that's going to be coming out onto a 100K speed limit, which is mostly disregarded by people. And they're doing 20, 30, 40K over. This continuous police giving tickets there. This is already a very dangerous intersection. There have been many accidents and near the intersection, along with more near miss than you can count. There needs to be a proper acceleration and deceleration lane on both sides of the highway, along with good signage. And then just an FYI here, I threw in here. The sign, there is no sign posted on Highway 97 5A announcing the proposed asphalt plant at Corbett Lake, gravel pit there, by the way. There is going to be an increased noise and increased truck traffic, jake brakes, backup, beepers, air horns, heavy machinery, crushed plants, and now hopefully not an asphalt plant. And they've been operating the gravel pit, and a lot of that happened with the floods that we had. And I understand that, and I can, relate to it, but they got guys into crush, and you got backup beepers and banging and loaders and everything going up, and they're out there 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And we wake up, you hear every little noise up there. So, and there will be an increase of dust and toxic fume coming from the heavy equipment, trucks, rock crushers, asphalt plants. Earlier this year, at times we have been inundated with dust as the trucks would leave and enter the gravel pit. The dust was so bad we could not sit in our deck or hang out our laundry. Our home is filled with dirt constantly. This problem will only get worse as the asphalt plant starts up and there's more trucks in that operating. Past complaints, I did complain about that stuff. I didn't want to raise too much, but I did talk to them about all the dust and everything. And the noises and all that, and wanted them to mitigate that dust for me, and entering and leaving the gravel pit, where these issues were never dealt with when we had an adequate solution that was promised. So, in conclusion, an asphalt plant is not a good fit for this small community of Corbett Lake area. So, thank you for listening to me, and got any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Prentice. Does anyone have any questions for the speaker? Vice Chair Smith?
Thank you for your representation. I just have a question, if you don't mind. Have they ever operated an asphalt production on that lot previously?
Not for the 16 years I've lived here, and I understand it never has. they did, when they were paving the connector and that, they did bring in grindings and stockpile them there, but then they took them all out to use them in other places.
Thank
But
you.
that's the only time there's been any asphalt on there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions for Mr. Prentice? No, next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Kemp. I'm a resident of Merritt, of Lower Nicola. My address is 372 Turner Avenue, Lower Nicola. I don't live in the Cane Valley. My objection to the asphalt plant is as a recreational use of Cane Valley. I kept my horses at Alan Maryland's place. I've ridden all over that country. I go up there in the spring and I camp and I bike ride all through that Cane Valley area. I hike, I snowshoe, and I cross-country ski there. I'm a huge user of that recreational area. I've ridden in that country for 40 years. And my objection to this is I worked in mining for many, many years and still do. And as a miner, I developed COPD. This is common. That intersection that Al was talking about is not used by tens of people or hundreds of people. That intersection from Cane Valley Road onto 97 is used by thousands of recreational users in the summertime, hauling travel trailers, horse trailers, mountain bikes, you name it. They're in and out of that intersection. It's extremely difficult to access Highway 97 in a pickup truck. When I am at their place and those gravel trucks are hauling out there, long dumps, and they pull out onto the highway, the traffic comes to a screeching halt. It's amazing that somebody hasn't been killed there hitting one of those trucks as it is. When we pull out onto that highway, any of the people that live there or any of the people that use that, and we pull out into we have to pull into the meridian to accelerate up to highway speed. And people come down there, it's 2 lanes. They will not move over from the center lane to the outside lane to allow people to access the highway going into Merritt. They lay on their horns and they make it's extremely dangerous. My biggest objection to this asphalt plant is the odor, the toxic fumes, and the extra noise and dust. It's a pristine lake, pristine fishing lake. It's below a wetland, and it drains into 2 lakes. The aquifer is unknown. Alan Maryland's well is within 500 meters of where they want to put that asphalt plant. So I don't think there's been enough environmental study done to allow for an asphalt plant there. There's Craigmont Mines in Lower Nicola, where Infracon has their cement plant, their gravel plant. There's gravel quarries all over that country where they could put that where it would not be near any homes, where it would not impact recreational access. And that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kemp.
Thank you for hearing us.
Does anyone have any questions for the speaker? No? All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak? Sir? If you could just state your name and address, please, and just fill out your name and address on the list on the lectern.
Good afternoon. My name is Jordan Christie. I'm here representing Douglas Lake Cattle Company and Rock Solid Industries in this proposal. I have a bunch of answers to a bunch of questions that were brought up and also some facts to go along with it regarding asphalt production and the asphalt plants and the mitigations and strategies we intend to impose if this is to get passed. It would seem that one of the major concerns that's come up is noise pollution. The noise that is generated from an asphalt plant is in between 85 and 105 decibels, meaning that the highway noise from the adjacent highway to Corbett Lake Lodge produces more noise than what will come out of the asphalt productions itself. Now, the equipment that is operated within our mine that we're currently approved to operate Monday to Saturday, Monday to Friday is full production, Saturdays is for loading and hauling only. Under the Mines Act, every piece of machinery that moves on site needs to have a backup beeper for safety concerns. That will also be the case for the asphalt plant, and backup beepers have to be from 97 decibels to 105 decibels to meet the regulations. The highway adjacent to both of the parcels of property that are being talked about today generates in between 85 and 105 decibels, meaning that the noise generated by the plant will not exceed what is proposed or what comes off of the highway. Now, Corbett Lake Lodge is sort of hidden from the highway noise, so I understand where their concerns come from. But the noise generated off our mine, which we are allowed to run during the same operation times we're asking for the asphalt plant to be in operation, is equivalent or higher when we're crushing rock. Another thing that's come up is air pollutions, as well as emissions coming off the plant. Asphalt plants in BC fall under strict provincial emission regulations, including limits to particulate matter that come off of the plant, restrictions on visible emissions, and requirements for proper combustion. Now, I've talked to several different contractors that have been in Merritt and all over the province. And in the last 30 years, surprisingly, there have been no odor complaints ever recorded for any of the operations. I'm not saying that people haven't smelt the product that comes off of the plant, because hot asphalt does have a smell, but asphalt production itself has strict regulations where the smells and odors have to be contained. On modern asphalt plants, wet scrubbers or baghouses are used to remove particulate matter from the air. And on this site, they will be equipped with wet scrubbers, which captures dust with a mist of water or spray and prevents particulate release into the environment. There's also been lots of discussion about the potential damage to fish stocks, as well as the ecological impacts to the lake. If this asphalt plant gets approved, there is a plan in place to set up a pad with drainage and catchments for any runoff that comes off of the hillside onto the site. There's also mitigations in place for any water or anything on site that's generated when rains come up, or high rains, spring runoff, anything like that. The pad which the asphalt plant will be set on will be graded so that all water will be trapped on that pad, put into the catchments, and filtered out before it returns to the environment. On this site, there's been multiple people today that have stated that there hasn't been enough environmental assessments done for this to go through. We have had an ESA level 1 completed on the site prior to anybody moving into it, which confirmed that there are no problems with the site. There are no contaminants on the site, and this exact piece of property in which we're talking about, somebody had said today that there's been no asphalt production on it. That unfortunately is incorrect. From 1980 to 1990, there was an asphalt plant set up in the exact same location that we're proposing this to happen, as well as in the early 2000s, there was an asphalt plant set up in there by Emil Anderson, who produced asphalt that was used on part of the construction of Highway 97C. The increased truck traffic that potentially could happen with the asphalt plant production. There's been an agreement with the Ministry of Transportation, which has been confirmed by their area manager, that when truck traffic becomes over 25 loads a day, that additional signage will be needed to be implemented by us or the contractor that will be producing the asphalt. That will be adjacent to the highways, both directions, informing the public and vehicles going by that is higher than normal truck traffic coming off of here. The access into the pit was specifically built for Quilchena and Douglas Lake Cattle Company to use it to access their land. It is also allowed to be used for commercial use, seeing how we are allowed to use it with our mine and our all traffic coming out that way. One of the mitigations we have planned to do if the asphalt production is allowed to happen in this parcel of land is we intend to get the contractor that is there to pave the road down to our pit, because we understand that the dust that comes off of the trucks as they're coming close to Cane Valley Road, it not only is unfortunate for the residents that's there, it does cause safety concerns, because by the time the dust settles in that place, you might not be able to see vehicles coming from either direction. So if we are going to use this as an asphalt production facility, we intend to pave the road down to the pit to mitigate that concern. The hours of operation, as I've stated, are going to be the exact same as what we are permitted to do on the mine. Therefore, I understand the concerns on the noise, but if we're looking at this realistically, the noise is there regardless, because we are in compliance with all mining regulations and doing what we are allowed to do as per our permit to operate that mine Monday to Friday for full operations, which includes crushing and screening, and Saturdays for loading and hauling. Now, the backup beepers are allowed on Saturdays with the loading and hauling because those are mobile pieces of equipment on site. Therefore, it's understandable where the concern comes from, but I feel like we're arguing about something that's already allowed to be there. As for, sorry, I'm missing one page. As for the proximity to Corbett Lake and the tributary leading up to it, which is called Logan Creek, under the asphalt plant regulation number 217 and 97, the minimum required setback from any water course is only 50 meters. The proposed location exceeds all distance requirements, Logan Creek by 150 meters and Corbett Lake by 220 meters. These setbacks are 3 to 4 times greater than the provincial requirement. If we are successful in setting up the asphalt plant in this space, we have full intentions to require, when the asphalt production is finished, we are going to require another ESA level 1 be done on the parcel of land, and it has to be in better or the same condition as it was before they started. We also are going to require any company that comes in to do asphalt production to put an environmental, they're going to have to submit a defined amount of money to be held in trust in the event that there are environmental deficiencies when their contract is over, and that money will be used to mitigate anything that was left from them. I want to emphasize that we as a company of merit, it's a small community, and we want to be good neighbors. We understand that there are concerns from everybody on everything that's going to happen, but we have full intentions on doing anything we can to mitigate any negative impacts it can have on other residents. So one of those impacts to help with the noise is we can strategically place our stockpiles to become noise barriers in between the lake and the asphalt facility, which will help the echo of the backup beepers. I'm not saying that it's going to completely eliminate all the noise, but it's one of the best mitigations we can do. We also intend to do that with our gravel pit to help with any dust blowing across towards Corbett Lake, and also to help with the noise that way. We are committed to continuing a standard which helps us operate safely, responsibly, and transparently while supporting the region's infrastructure needs. The asphalt production is proposed to be for 6 months of the year. That does not mean by any standard that we will be operating Monday to Saturday for 6 months of the year. The asphalt production is based on the local economy and local projects in the area. So if there is no asphalt to be laid in the Merritt area, the plant will not run. It's just a place where they will set up, the equipment will stay there, and it will only be used on an as-needed basis between the times that we've asked for it to be. There may be years where the asphalt plant is only in production for 2 months of the year because that's all the demand is in the area. But this location provides them the opportunity to go within 3 hours in any direction to deliver asphalt, because that is the amount of time you can have hot mix into a truck and it still be viable when it reaches site. I think I've covered a lot of the topics that have came up today. I am more than willing to answer any more questions that the board or anybody else may have, and I appreciate your time listening to me today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christie. We have 3 directors who have questions. We have Director Bass online, we have Director Smith, and Director Sarai. Director Bass.
Thank you. Just one question. Can you guarantee that the scrubbers will minimize or eliminate any of the VOCs from entering the environment?
That is their intended use, and it is an approved method by WCB because that is who regulates asphalt plants in BC. So if the scrubbers themselves do what they're supposed to do and the plant itself gets tested, they should be in compliance. That is the theory behind the wet scrubbers.
Okay, I heard a bunch of ifs and shoulds there, which concerned me, but thank you for the answer.
Thank you. Director Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your information. I'm just wondering, it sounds to me like there's several other possible locations in the immediate area. I'm just wondering why Corbett Lake is so important to you.
The exact location where the plant is going to be set up is a previously disturbed area, so we will not be wrecking any more grasslands or anything like that to set it up. There's in fact enough gravel on the site itself to use to create the pads. All throughout the Nicola Valley, especially in our region, we operate 7 gravel pits in the Merritt area. There are only 2 gravel pits that are viable options for this because of the product that comes out of them. Alternatively, yes, there are lots of different sites that asphalt plants can be set up, but that involves a lot of trucking, a lot of costs, and it's detrimental to the environment. This year, because we were not able to set them up there, they have chosen a different location temporarily, which they're not allowed to stay on. And it involved them trucking close to 3,000 tons of material to that location. So there was an added trucking cost, there was more truck traffic and more fuel burnt. This area allows us to produce the material in the mine without having to move the aggregate additionally before the product can be moved to site. And it doesn't impact any of the ALC land in a negative way where it's not already impacted. I understand nobody wants to see any land in the ALR become a gravel pit or an asphalt plant production. But as I stated earlier, this exact spot was already an asphalt plant production facility. And we feel like instead of going to one of our other gravel pits where it is in the ALR and having to disturb more agricultural land, this one fits the scope of what we're looking for better.
Thank you. Director Sarai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question, when you talked about the water runoff and it was going to be filtered before it gets released, how is that going to get monitored and who monitors it?
That would be monitored through us. We have the design for the proposed build for the pad with catch basins implemented. It was consulted with the same company that did the environmental site assessment to figure out if that was going to be adequate or if we needed to add multiple basically settling ponds for it to go through before it would reach the natural watercourse again. And the design that we came up with was approved by the environmentalist, stating that that would be sufficient in order to do what we were trying to do.
Supplemental, Chair. You mentioned the 3-hour radius for asphalt, so actually it's just not the Merritt area. It could go right to Kamloops and it could go into 3 hours radius from Merritt. So that market could run full on for 6 months.
It could, yes.
Director Sal, then Director Newstater.
Thank you very much. I've got 3 questions. Those wet scrubbers, the liquid, the water, are they carried off-site or are they filtered and then released?
Sorry, could you
Like-
repeat that?
I assume the wet scrubbers, there's water being used to scrub the VOCs. Is that water then filtered and released into the water or carried off-site? Like,
No, it's carried off-site.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
it goes, the way the asphalt plant is set up, it goes into catchment basins that they have that don't drain out. And then they suck that out and they have a disposal area where they get rid of that.
Thank you. My second question is, if the TUP doesn't get approved, are you still going to have the asphalt plant just to a shorter duration under current zoning?
There is a possibility, yes.
Okay. And then lastly, speaking to another speaker earlier, there's a potential for sublease. If it is subleased, are there new parties held under the same environmental plans and standards?
I intend to hold them under a higher standard.
Director Newstater.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious if you could tell me what Rock Solid Industries has done to proactively alleviate concerns in the community. What kind of engagement have you chosen to do? We have in our report, of course, communications, public consultation, what's required. But I'm curious what engagement with the public has looked like to alleviate concerns or put methods in place that might directly answer some of their questions.
To date, there has been one person that's came up today to speak that has been in contact with our owners. Apart from that, there was somebody mentioned earlier that there was no sign hung up on the property. It was hung up. There's been 3 signs installed to date. 2 of them have been vandalized. The 3rd one has been up, and Bobby, who is helping me through this process, has documentation and pictures of that as well.
So just supplemental, one thing that I know for sure from sitting on boards like this and in councils is the better the relationship is with the community, the easier your life is. And I think you've provided some helpful information that looks like maybe it was also helpful to the residents to some degree. But regardless of what's required, it is helpful for everyone involved. And if there is proactive engagement, sometimes great ideas come out of the community that benefit the business as well as the residents. So strongly encourage you to strengthen that relationship as a major driver in the Merritt area of the economy. I imagine you will have continual engagement with these residents. So regardless of the outcome today, I would strongly encourage Rock Solid Industries to be more proactive in their engagement and relationships.
Understood. Thank you.
Director O'Toole.
Thank you. Through the chair, and thank you for the information. You mentioned a couple of minutes ago, you had a number of mining sites, quarries across your various lands, but only 2 of them, I think you said, were practical for this. Obviously, this is one of them. Could you elaborate on the second one and why it would not have been chosen?
The second one is located in Lower-Nicola. There is probably close to 45 residents within a 500-meter radius of that site. That site just, it doesn't work for what we're trying to do there.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Christie? Any other questions? No one online? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else here in the public gallery who would like to speak? I understand there are people watching the meeting online. Are we able to tell if anyone online wishes to speak to this matter? Ma'am, if you'd like to step forward, just state your name and address and please write them on the list. And we're just checking online to see if anyone online has any comments to make on this matter.
Good afternoon. My name's Ann Thompson. I'm the GM for Corbett Lake Lodge. I run the business on behalf of the ownership. And I'm, I'd like to refer back to the summaries that were submitted by Tuesday at noon for the overall picture of what our objections are. Specifically, just now listening to your presentation, a question I have is, do you have any other sites close to a pristine, productive lake with a viable business on it? Am I allowed to ask that gentleman a question?
Madam Corporate Officer?
Pardon? No. My understanding is from speaking to the previous owners of Colchana Cattle Company that there was not an asphalt plant operating at that site. It was originally used by the Colchana Cattle Company for their own purposes, for the ranch. When the new highway went through the connector, they expanded it. They were approached to provide aggregate for the construction of the new highway. And I was told that they did not have an asphalt plant as such on that site at that time. That's the information we have. Regarding self-monitoring, what that is saying to me that there will be no oversight at all from any other source to monitor that site. I think we would object to that if we have issues, that there is not some type of government, Ministry of Mines oversight, that the mitigation proposed has been met. So if it doesn't work for 45 households, it doesn't work for anyone. The houses that are directly across from the site and Corbett Lake, the figure of 220 meters was mentioned, which according to you is the official off-site or distance, is that correct?
50 meters required distance.
To the water?
20 meters away from Corbett Lake, so about 4 times farther.
Okay, we're talking water source, we're talking existing water body. That's
Ex-
not
ex-
very far.
Okay, excuse me, we can't have a debate or discussion here.
Okay.
This is just for you to ask questions or raise your
Yeah,
concerns.
You mentioned that, right? I mean, that.
And also we can't, the people online can't hear anyone who's not at a microphone.
Okay, very good. So that 200 meters is not very far. And the business and the guests of the business and the landholders across the road will be affected. We have a huge investment in the fish stock in Corbett Lake Lodge. It is privately stocked and managed. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of fish in the lake that we want to protect. And more importantly, if I might just summarize from some of the information that we submitted, Corbett Lake is our claim to fame and main source of revenue. Corbett Lake's a contributing business to the community. We bring international acclaim, we bring business to the whole area, Thompson, Okanagan. And it's an institution in the area. And we do everything we can to protect it and to manage it well. And there just can be no doubt that an asphalt plant, there's going to be noise, there's going to be smoke, there's going to be smell. It's that close to the lake, it will impact the business. I encourage you to review the submissions that we made. And that's it. If there are any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Does anyone have any questions for the speaker? No? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the gallery who wishes to make a submission? Anyone online who has indicated that they wish to make a submission on this matter? Anyone else? All right, I'm going to call a second time for further representations, either here in the gallery in public or from anyone online who wishes to make representation. So calling a second time. Calling for a third and final time for representations. Seeing no indication online or in the gallery, I declare this public hearing closed. Thank you. We'll just wait for the directors who stepped outside for this one to come back in for the second public hearing. Corporate Officer Jeremiah?
Thank you, Chair Roden. Just to clarify, the directors were never in the public hearing to begin with, so they are not present with this.
Apologies, they are
in-person
not
to
returning
participate.
because they were not here to start with.
They were
are-
not participating in this public hearing.
They are entering the room for the first time. All right, we are moving on to the second hearing. Temporary use permit bylaw number 2891, 2025. Temporary use permit number TUP 82 would allow a seasonal short-term agri-tourist rental from an existing dwelling unit to complement the Dead Man Acres Farm at 6098 Dead Man Vidette Road, north of Savannah, BC. Madam Corporate Officer, are there any written submissions?
Thank you, Chair. There are no written submissions that have been received before or following the deadline.
Thank you. Are there any in-person submissions regarding this? If you could just state your name and address, please, and write your name on the list there.
Hi there, my name is Natalie Blair of 6098 Dead Man Vidette Road. I am the owner and operator of the Airbnb.
If you could just maybe move the microphone a little closer to, that's perfect.
Hi there, I just wanted to introduce myself, Natalie Blair of 6098 Dead Man Vidette Road. I am the owner and operator of the small Airbnb. And we love showcasing our small scale regenerative farm with our guests. We focus on farm to table meal packages that we share, as well as education and tours of our farm. So it's a great supplemental addition to our small scale farm. And we love the connection that we're able to offer our guests to their food and to the environment.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Blair? No questions? Do we have anyone who wishes to make representation, either anyone here in the gallery or who is online? All right, I'm going to call a second time for anyone wishing to make representations on this matter, either here in person or online. All right, calling a third and final time for representations on this matter. There being no further speakers, I declare this public hearing closed. Thank you. We move on to the Thompson-Nicola Regional District meeting for Thursday, the 20th of November, 2025. Way behind. The TNRD acknowledges we connect with many First Nations communities across our vast regional district, and today we are located on the Tk'emlúps-Secwepemc territory situated within the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation. The TNRD appreciates the partnership we have with Tk'emlúps-Secwepemc, and we respect the territory and land on which we gather today. As you will have seen, we have 3 directors attending today via Zoom. We have Director Dale Bass, Director David Lepso, and Director Merlin Blackwell, who are with us spiritually, if not physically. Nisconluth First Nations MOU ceremony. The TNRD will formally sign a memorandum of understanding with Nisconluth Indian Band on December 18th, 2025. The event will take place in the TNRD boardroom from 2 to 4 p.m. on the 18th of December, and we are excited to be able to advance our First Nations partnerships. Housekeeping note, year-end reminder for expenses. As we approach the end of the fiscal year, I would like to remind everyone to submit all outstanding expense reports to Livia as soon as possible. This will ensure that our financial records are accurate and up to date. Please take a moment to review your expenses and submit any pending reports as soon as possible. If you have any questions or need any assistance, please reach out to Livia. Board expense claims up to and including the committee of the whole meeting on December 12th are to be submitted to the office of the CAO by board members by end of day on December 16th, 2025. These expense reports will be paid in 2026, and any taxable benefits will become part of the 2026 T4. Upcoming meetings, December 10th, we have Utility Systems Committee at 10 and Finance Committee at 1:30. On December 11th, we have Hospital District Board meeting at 10. We have a board holiday lunch at noon and regular board meeting at 1:30 p.m. And on Friday, the 12th of December, we have Committee of the Whole at 9 a.m., followed by the TNRD Staff Long Service Awards at noon. And all are welcome to, of course, stay and recognize our many fine staff members, some of whom have been with us for a very long time indeed. Today in your blue folders, you will find regular mail, a letter regarding Tranquille Chris Creek Road, and the printed notice of motion from Director Houghton, which we will be discussing later. In the event of an emergency, if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the safest exit doors, either at the rear of the room or the main entrance. Go down the staircase, exit the building, and assemble in the staff car parking lot at the rear of the Paramount Theater. Please do not run. Please do not use the elevators. If you have issues with mobility, please advise the corporate officer, hopefully before we have to vacate quickly. All right, additions to deletions from the agenda. We are deleting item 12.1.2, which was the report from Film Commissioner Hadwin. That was not intended for this particular agenda. We will be getting a report from Film Commissioner Hadwin early in the new year for the entire board. We have 2 items of new business. We have a letter in your blue folder regarding the Tranquille Chris Creek Road, as I mentioned, and Director Hayward is also requesting a letter of support, copies of which have been circulated. And we have Director Houghton, your notice of motion is there. Is this in addition to the Tranquille Chris Creek Road one?
It's different than that in dollar value and scope. And I can explain that if you would like me to.
Is this regarding a proposed amendment that's been discussed to this item?
No,
No?
what it is it's a new motion on behalf of Director Grenier and myself to increase the whole budget in the whole Kamloops area. This particular item, I just got off the phone with Director Grenier. Really, the money there pertains, his want in this was just for the Tranquille Chris Creek area. Mine was, and the new one is for the whole Kamloops region, asking for an increase in their rural road maintenance budget.
Okay, so can we treat this as an expanded one, or do we have to postpone? Do we have 2 separate?
It was just the letter that was provided in the blue folders. No resolution has been provided or motion has been provided or presented at this time. So if Director Houghton wants to present a notice of or a letter, or sorry, a resolution to stipulate that it is to be an increase regionally, I think that should be okay. Nothing has been presented at this time to the board, so we should be able to proceed.
Right, because the letter that is in the blue folders is merely an explanation of the problem. It is not a resolution. So that's fine. You can just whatever resolution you, or whatever motion you were going to make, you can change it and present that motion instead. So still same item of new business. It's just now you have decided that it's going to be slightly different in terms of scope. No, that's fine. We've announced that it's going to be under new business, so we'll hear more about it when we get to that point.
Point of clarification, Madam Chair, you said there was something circulated via Director Haywood, is that correct?
Was Director Hayward's request for the letter of support, was it, oh no, it wasn't? Okay.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that, Director O'Reilly?
Sorry, I was clarifying with Chair Roden. She had mentioned that Director Haywood had something circulated to us, and I don't see it or have a copy of that. So I'm just trying to understand where we're at now. Thank you.
Apologies, this was brought forward at the last moment. We are introducing it under new business, and Director Hayward will be speaking to that matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have a copy. I assumed that everyone else did. All right, are there any other additions to deletions from the agenda? If I could please get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Director Smith, seconded by Director Thorpe. Thank you. All those in favor?
Yep.
Anyone? Yes, and thank you. The people online, we have to hear you. We heard you, Director Bass. Director Lepso. I think you're muted. Director Lepso, we need to actually hear you say yay or nay, whichever it is, but you are muted at the current moment. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yay.
Thank you very much. And I don't think Director Blackwell is here at the present time. All right, that is passed. We have the minutes of the regular meeting held on November 6th. Thank you, Director Rantis, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Yay.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Item 7.1, bylaws from public hearing. First one is temporary use permit number TUP 81. Director Graham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to excuse myself because of family ties to one of the proponents. Thank you.
Director Houghton?
I'd like to excuse myself, conflict. I've done previous business with the proponent.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are in temporary use permit application number TUP 81 electoral area, and we do have two recommendations. Director Laird.
I don't support either of those two recommendations. Can I make another recommendation at this time?
Corporate Officer Jeremiah.
Absolutely, another recommendation can be made. It also depends on I guess, whether or not the scope of whether there's significant changes to the bylaw that might bring forward another public hearing.
Thank you.
So I can make a different recommendation this time. I recommend that this temporary use permit be denied after hearing the comments and the implications that is going to happen in that area. I don't think it should be allowed. You think about what we do to the environment daily, and now we're adding more.
I believe first we need to get someone to second that.
I'll second it.
Whoa,
That's
okay.
me.
So,
Director Bass, you had the loudest voice, so you are the official seconder of that. Is now just
Thank you.
before we proceed, Corporate Officer Jeremiah, this is correct that we can discuss this motion now, which is to deny the TUP?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Yes, we can, the motion on the table at the moment can be
Discussed.
discussed and debated.
Okay, thank you. So we are discussing a motion to deny this temporary use permit, just so that everyone's clear. Director Laird.
Thank you. It's interesting what we do in our environment. I don't know if anybody has actually looked at space junk in the air. It's something that we are now doing to our environment. We are now shooting space junk up in the air. There's 36,000 tons of space junk. So not only we are working at the environment contamination on Earth, but now we're shooting it up into space. So somewhere along the lines, we have to take responsibility of environmental impacts. I spent a lot of time looking at the impacts on that particular property. The lakes are fed by springs that come from an aquifer. And we all know that the site will never be clean again. And anything that's left there can leach a long ways. The example I have is a salt and sand plant storage right close to the Coldwater Avenue Street in our area. It was there for 20 years, and the salt leached from there down and contaminated wells that were down on Coldwater Road. So I do have concerns about the leaching, and I also have concerns about the impacts. We were told that it impacts people's property values quite substantially. The item I saw was up to 30% decrease in value. We will be possibly eliminating a resort with a pristine lake that has been in our community for 40 years. And it's something that we don't need to do. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Director Sarai, then Director O'Reilly, then Director Sal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification on the opposition of this proposal. Opposing this TUP is still allowing the proponent to run an asphalt plant in a shorter duration without our approval. Is that correct?
Through the chair, so the zoning currently allows processing of aggregate materials, which includes the allowance for temporary asphalt production for up to 6 months per year. So they could, in theory, still operate if this is denied, but they wouldn't be able to keep the equipment there. The other thing I should mention, as noted in the report, the property is also in the ALR, the Agricultural Land Reserve. The board did authorize sending that down to the Land Commission for a decision. They have not yet made a decision. If the ALR turns this down, then all of this is moot as well. So it would depend on, if this is turned down, then they could still potentially do it, but only if the ALC approves their application.
Thank you. I have Directors O'Reilly, Sal, Thorpe, and Newstater.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few thoughts, but I think whether this plant gets approved here or somewhere else, this plant still is going to happen. The asphalt's still needed. I think we all drive the many highways and thousands of kilometers in our region all the time. And talking or hearing their proponent and the pads that would be constructed underneath to collect anything that would potentially leach. And at the end, when the plant does close, it has to be returned back to the same standards as what they received it in. I think looking back historically, and it's tough for me to understand because we heard that there wasn't a asphalt plant there previously. We heard that there was twice. And so I'm trying to understand what that actually is. But the residents there across the street and the lodge were there at the exact same time as the potential asphalt plant that had been operating. And as mentioned, the Coquihalla runs directly right beside Corbett Lake. And I think industry and transportation and the lodge and the residents have coexisted for a long time. And staying consistent what this board put forward to the ALC previously, saying, hey, let's put this application forward. I will not be supporting the recommendation to deny. Thank you.
Thank you. I think for clarification, the Prentices were saying that they have lived there for 16 years on Cane Valley Road, and that during that 16 years, there has not been an asphalt plant there. But there was one historically when the connector was built, which would have been 90-ish, 92, and that there was not, and it happened again around 2000. So there was an asphalt plant there, but not in the Prentices' 16 years of living on the property. I believe that is what they were saying.
Thank
For
you, Madam Chair,
clarification.
which amplifies that industry and residential and recreation coexistent. Thank you.
Director Sal, then Thorpe, Newstater, and Getz. Director Sal.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director Sarai, for reminding us that it is not within our authority to deny the actual asphalt operation because they are zoned and received a permit for it. With that being said, earlier about it still needs ALC approval. Would our TUP approval or denial have bearing? Does the ALC take that into account? Thank you.
Through the chair, no. And so they're going to make their decision based on the impact on agriculture. And the permit, even if it's approved by the board in theory, has a section or a clause in there saying it'll only be allowed if approved by the ALC. So that won't be a bearing on their decision.
Director Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. A couple things. It is really confusing about the asphalt because I believe I heard the lady from Corbett Lake say that no, there hadn't been when she did a study. So I don't know what the answer to that is. I am in support of Director Laird's motion. I think we have to be very careful of the environment. And we have, as a board, sometimes said, okay, that falls under Minister of Environment. And I can think of one case where we approved something and found out later that they were not in compliance with Minister of Environment and have subsequently been fined. So I think we need to be very, very careful what we do with our world. And for that reason, for the reason that there are people living in close proximity, and to the fact that we have this waterway, this lake, this aquifer, I will be supporting Director Laird. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Newstater.
Thank you. I'm not a doctor either, if it helps. I will not be supporting the motion as it stands simply because I think it would be more prudent for us to defer. We have so many questions still here on the table, a lot of speculation, a lot of unknowns. To me, the ALC supersedes our decision anyway. It seems odd of us to be making a decision that will just be overridden by them if they find that it doesn't meet all regulation and all responsibilities. So my preference would be to defer this until we know what the ALC has to say. They might have environmental concerns. None of us in this room are experts, environmental or otherwise. That's why, yes, sometimes, a ministry, there are decisions that are then clawed back or there are consequences. They are still better positioned than we are to speculate about those things. So I won't be supporting this, but if it does fail, I will put forward a motion to defer until after we know the ALC decision.
And just for clarification, Mr. Krause, is there a reason why it's done in this order? Or is this just simply the way it happens?
Through the chair, it's simply the way it happened in this case. The property owner has the right to either apply for both at the same time or individually. In this case, they wanted the ALR application first, and then staff have to process it. And now, while they're waiting for that decision, they've wanted to apply for this to get the process going. But it is perfectly correct for the board to say that they don't want to make a decision at this time. Staff just need clarity on the next step. So,
thank you. Director Getz.
Mr. Croce, just a quick question. So ALR, ALC, whatever we're calling them these days, we have a piece of property that we have had in the ALR's hands for 14 years. Do we have any timeline on what this might look like? And if we defer and we wait for the ALR, can this plant still operate with the ALR, without the ALR approval, or would it have to stand down until that approval comes through or decision comes through?
through the chair, the ALR decisions these days are anywhere from, it depends on the application, and I'm not sure how they triage them, but often a year plus. But I can't put a specific timeline on it because it depends on the ALC's process, and I don't think it'll be 14 years, but I do know that basic applications that are coming through the board are taking about a year plus. If the so no, they cannot operate lawfully unless the ALC makes their decision, regardless of this decision in the TUP.
Madam Chair,
Would the mover of this motion be akin to allowing this to go to the ALR decision rather than the defeat? Just curious.
Do you, so just for clarification, you mean postponing our decision and consideration on this matter until we hear what the Agricultural Land Commission decision?
Well, right now in front of us, we have a total denial, but we don't have any kind of ALR input on this at this point in time. So if we move to deny it, and we do, it still doesn't matter anyway because the ALR makes a decision. Our decision means nothing at this point in time. So I'm just wondering, and if they cannot operate this until the ALC or ALR makes a decision, it would be more prudent for us to table this until the ALC or ALR has made their decision, which could be a year, 2 years from now. Who knows?
Right. So
I'm just curious.
So you're saying you're saying, why not table this matter until we know what the commission, I think the reserve is the actual stock of land. The commission are the people who oversee that stock of land. That's how I remember it in my own head anyway, between the reserve and the commission. So you're saying wait until we hear what the Agricultural Land Commission's decision is, and then, because if they say no, then it's academic anyway.
And the plant cannot go ahead until that decision is made by the ALR.
Right.
Whether we defeat it or support it today.
Right.
It still doesn't go anywhere. So I'm just wondering if the mover of the motion to totally deny would be more to table it until the ALR has made their decision and the board can then make their decision. I'm just curious.
Director Laird?
I'm just curious. I thought when there was a deferral, you vote on the deferral as, and there's no discussion until that has been basically the deferral motion has either been supported or not supported. Is that not correct? I don't know. That's what I understand.
Corporate Officer Jeremiah?
The motion to defer will then constitute another public hearing at a future meeting. So in conjunction with a regular board meeting.
So that means if we defer this, then we will be going back to, previous to this step, we will have to hold another public hearing. That would presumably then be after the Agricultural Land Commission has made their decision. Of course, if they say no, then the entire thing is academic, correct? If they say yes, though, then we would be revisiting this and we would be going back and basically starting again. Just, I'm not weighing in that it's right or wrong or good or bad. I'm just explaining that's what would happen. Have I explained it correctly, Corporate Officer Jeremiah?
I believe so, but I will also defer to Alex to weigh in as well.
So through the chair, I mean, there's a motion now to deny the TUP. So I think if that goes through, then the application is closed and completed. Then they await the decision from the ALR. If it's successful and they want a new TUP, then they'd have to apply again. We need another public process or maybe new information. Residents may want to comment on that new information. So it should set that process over again. If they don't want the TUP and they just want to operate under the existing zoning allowance after the ALC has made their approval, they could in theory do that as well.
Director Ranta.
Thank you, Chair. When I read the agenda, I looked at these two applications for temporary use permits, and on the simplistic reading of it that I did, I was prepared to support them both. However, today I've been persuaded by those objecting to the issuance of a TUP for this particular application, and I support Director Laird's motion to deny the TUP, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
So if we vote in favor of Director Laird's motion, then kills it. if at some future date, if when the Agricultural Land Commission comes forward and does give their approval, then the owner would have the right to apply again for a TUP. And at that time, we might have more information, etc. Okay? Everyone's nodding. That's awesome. All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Anyone online? This is your opportunity. No hands? All right. So the motion is to deny TUP number 81. All those in favor of denying TUP 81, please raise your hands.
Yep.
And I think Director Bass is in favor. And then do you want me to read out the names? All right, Director Getz, you can put your hand down when I call your name. Director Getz, Director O'Toole, Director Onslow, Director Ranta, Director Hayward, Vice Chair Smith, Director Middleton, Director Laird, Director Smith, Director Sow, Director Sarai, Director Thorpe, Director Stanky, Director Morris, Director Carpuck, Director Kerslake. All right, all those opposed to the motion, and I'm going to just start with online first, so if I can hear online, if you are opposed, please say something.
I'm opposed.
All right, Director Lepso is opposed. Director Blackwell, we haven't heard, so
I am abstaining from this vote. I
Okay.
realize I'm still here. I missed 20 minutes in the middle of this presentation because I had to step out, so I do not have the full scope of information.
All right, so voting on the nay side, we have Director Lepso, Director O'Reilly, Chair Roden, Director Newstater, Director Hall, Director O'Connor. All right, so that is defeated. All right, it's passed. The TUP is defeated. I mean, the motion is passed. The motion is passed to defeat the TUP. All right, there we go. Number 7.2, temporary use permit number TUP 82 regarding electoral area J. Corporate Officer Jeremiah.
Thank you, Chair. Could we just wait for the two directors to return to the meeting?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Please come back. All right, thank you. We're moving on to number 7.2, temporary use permit number TUP 82 in electoral area J. We do have two recommendations. Director Thorpe? Director Thorpe moved, Director Ranta second. Thank you very much. So this is to give a third reading to temporary use permit number TUP 82. Does anyone have any questions or comments? No? All right, on the question then, all those in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Captain Blackwell. All those opposed? No one? We have a second recommendation, Director Newstater, seconded by Director Thorpe. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Yep.
Yep.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Item 8.1, building infraction BP 016198 in electoral area J. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? And have we received any word from the property owner or any members of the public?
We have not received any word from members of the public or the property owner.
Thank you. No one here to speak to it. All right, we move on to 9.1, building infraction BP 016198, electoral area J. We have a recommendation. Director Ranta, thank you. Seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Any questions or comments? On the question, then all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Item 10.1, bylaws, solid waste management facilities amendment bylaw number 2888. This is a weighted stakeholder vote for service participants. So this is for all directors, weighted vote, except City of Kamloops directors who do not participate in this service, just a reminder. So we do have 3 recommendations. Director Thorpe is moving recommendation 1 and Director Kerslake is seconding that. Discussion. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Director Smith moves recommendation 2. Director Thorpe seconds that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. And the 3rd recommendation, Director Morris, seconded by Director Houghton, did I hear? All right. That deep bass voice is hard to mistake. All right, so it's been moved and seconded for adoption. All those in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Item 10.2, Board of Directors Procedure Bylaw number 2895. We do have 3 recommendations. Move 1, Director Sarai makes that motion, seconded by Director Kerslake. Thank you. Any discussion on this? No discussion, questions, comments? All those in favor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. 2nd recommendation. Director Houghton, thank you very much. Director Thorpe. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Yeah.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Carried. And 3rd time. Director Getz, seconded by Director Thorpe. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. 10.3, public notice bylaw number 2894. We have 3 more recommendations.
Move recommendation 1.
Director Ranta, thank you. Director Kerslake seconds that. Any discussion on 1st and 2nd reading? All in favor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Carried. Recommendation 2. Vice Chair Smith, seconded by Director Newstater. Vice Chair, Director Smith. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. And 3rd time. Director Sarai, I keep seeing your hand go up. Oh, he's not even there. You missed your chance. All right, Director Newstater, seconded by Director Hall. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? That is carried. 10.4, Notice Enforcement Amendment Bylaw number 2902. 3 recommendations.
Move on.
Director O'Reilly, thank you. Seconded by Director Karpuk. Discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? Director Middleton moves recommendation 2, seconded by Director O'Toole. Thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opposed,
Aye.
any? Carried. And recommendation 3. Director Ranta, thank you. Seconded by Director Thorpe. Discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. 11.1, Agricultural Land Commission, ALR 253 in electoral area L. We have a recommendation. Director Houghton, seconded by Director Morris. Any discussion on this item? No? All right, on the motion, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Item. Okay, I'm being asked if we can have a 5-minute break. Is everyone in favor of that idea? All right, 5-minute break. All right, thank you, everyone. We're moving on in the agenda to item 12.1.1 CAO verbal report. Over to you, CAO Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair Roden. Quick announcement before I share my update. I'd like to recognize Justin Hansen, our legislative services admin, who is leaving the TNRD to pursue a career in HR. Today is Justin's last meeting with us, and we thank Justin for his dedication and contribution to the TNRD and wish him all the success and the best in the future. So I have a few updates for the board. Number one is just a quick update on the EOC train derailment of late. As you're all aware, we've been dealing with this critical event since November 1st. Just wanted to give you a bit of a timeline of what happened quickly. Coordination call was held immediately after we found out on November 1st. The EOC and utility staff were on site on November 3rd. EOC Communications received significant inquiries from the media. We attended coordination calls with natural resource calls, with the Ministry of Environment, with First Nations, with CPKC and other ministries. We work closely with Unified Command to identify water intakes and accessing for testing, strongly lobbying for testing both upstream and downstream. Provided updates to Facebook and Voyant for public information, contacted residents of Frederick and Caliente, which was a private well. We were very engaged with this one given the amount of fuel that spilled into the lake. We had a hosted meeting that we arranged in Savannah on the Monday, last Monday, which was very successful. As of today, we continue to monitor the situation and participate in weekly calls. The responders continue to complete what they call SCAT assessments, and that's like the shoreline containment treatment assessment. And that's been going well. And we are expecting another public update from our EOC today. And that'll be going out sometime later today or first thing tomorrow morning. The second item I wanted to talk about was just a quick update on OCPs and some timelines behind those. This has been a large project for our planning team here at the TNRD, and it's starting to come to an end. OCP drafts are coming together, incorporating input from 16 community meetings, two rounds of public engagement, as well as 2 surveys. We're trying to get ministry input, has been challenging over the last little while with the job action, but we are making progress now. Planning staff are preparing to bring the 2 OCP bylaws forward for early in 2026 and look forward to your feedback and direction. The third topic is just regarding board and committee agenda reviews. I wanted to update the entire board on this best practice that we use on our regular meetings and want to build into our committee meetings as well. So this suggestion came from a few of the directors here in the room. And currently a dedicated meeting or phone call is set up with board chair prior to every meeting to ensure we are fully prepared. The meeting is intended to review the content and prepare for the meeting. And this is where Chair Roden can ask questions or receive further updates. This meeting takes place days prior to the meeting, and it helps both staff and the chair form dialogue to run an effective and efficient meeting. And my point in this was I would like to encourage the chairs from the other committees to reach out to myself and Marty to also have those pre-committee meetings, just so we can be a bit more efficient and make sure that there's no questions or additions that we may need to add to the meeting. So that's just a quick reminder to committees chairs. Number 4 was just a quick budget update. I wanted to start by thanking the board of directors for their input and feedback on our recent workshop that we had. We appreciate the opportunity to share the details behind the proposed plans and decisions for consideration for the board. Our senior management team took time to provide a complete SWOT analysis and dig a bit deeper into what impacts and drives our budgets. Based on where we are starting, staff have a lot of work to do, and we realize that, and we are up for that challenge. We will be bringing a provisional budget back to you in December. We have heard from you and are already starting to make the necessary analysis and changes you have requested. This will be work in progress over the next few months as we then head towards finalizing our budget in March of 2026. Some of the key topics that we discussed were salary and wage savings, cost control balance for the remaining of the year, which hopefully we'll be anticipating larger surpluses, solid waste mattress revenue, more work on solid waste analysis, building standards review with fees and budget, mobile library review and analysis, and other departmental efficiencies. So staff are very focused on this, and we are very confident that we will be able to bring back a more reasonable budget for your consideration in December. Number 5 was just a quick update on our advocacy tour. I wanted to remind the board that our upcoming advocacy tour is next week in Victoria. We have 5 meetings planned with ministers over 3 days, including a meeting with the Premier. These meetings are critical to advancing the region's priorities with Victoria, and Corbin will share a bit more of those details coming up here shortly. And then finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about something we call skip a step meetings. I wanted to share a new process that I've been undertaking personally over the last few months to continue to build relationships and a strong work environment within the TNRD. We have come a long way in making some significant changes in our workplace culture over the years, and these meetings are furthering that work. Over the course of the year, I've been taking the time to connect one-on-one with the direct reports of my senior management team. This gives me great opportunity to listen and connect with more of our staff and build those relationships, and it's proven to be very helpful so far. We're reporting back on some high-level learnings and themes to the board and to our staff, of course, in spring of next year. So now I'd like to just pass it over to Mr. Kelly for a few updates.
Thank you, CEO Hildebrand. Just 3 things from my end. As Chair Roden mentioned at the beginning of the meeting during her announcements, our MOU signing with Nisquamleth has been moved to December. Previously, you would have heard an update that it would have been tomorrow, actually, November 21st. There was some scheduling conflicts that came up, so we've moved it to December 18th, and looking forward to having that completed and having a 4th picture on the wall. In addition, with First Nation engagement, there has been some follow-up, both with Skeetchison and Bonaparte, respectively, around initial discussions that we've had with them to advance an MOU with those communities as well. The second topic from me is around advocacy realignment, and I know that I talked with some of you during the UBCM convention around what this could look like, especially heading into the last year of the board's term, wanting to make sure that we're being most successful with the advocacy that we're pursuing, that the topics are a top priority to really try and get some additional things across the finish line. You'll see that some of our topics are now being handled at a staff level. We've received ministerial direction, and now staff internally are able to deal with that with the province. A report will be coming to the December 12th Committee of the Whole for input from directors and to have some discussion around what realignment on our advocacy can look like, ensuring that our advocacy priorities are still top of mind, and we're wanting to make sure that going into 2026 that those will be the best possible use of staff time. Our goal is to have as many wins as possible under the current strategic plan, and wanting to be as strategic as possible with our advocacy to the provincial and federal governments. A fun quote that I heard recently is that strategy, and especially strategy around advocacy, is like a toothbrush. You can't just have it, you have to use it and use it every day. Lastly, just to touch on the advocacy tour, there are meetings set both on Tuesday and Wednesday between a number of ministers. As CEO Hildebrand mentioned, it includes a meeting with the Premier. Just to give a high-level update to directors, the topics that will be discussed, the first one being healthcare delivery in the TRHD, and that will include Chair O'Reilly and Vice Chair Blackwell of the Hospital Board. And that's a joint meeting with the Minister of Health and the Minister of Infrastructure. Our second meeting is on small water utility system funding. That's a joint meeting between the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Minister of State for Rural Communities and Local Government, and as well the Minister of State, or the Parliamentary Secretary, rather, for Rural Development. Unfortunately, Finance has had to give their regrets to participating in that meeting, but we are in touch with staff with the Finance Ministry in Victoria to coordinate something at a later date. Our third meeting will be with Public Safety and Solicitor General regarding highway safety, specifically the out-of-province ticket enforcement file. And then our meeting with the Premier will include both the inclusion of regional districts and more specifically electoral area directors in communication from his ministers. But in addition to that, because of our scheduling conflict with the Minister of Finance, we will also be raising the concern of the pipeline revaluation with the Premier, and as well the concern around the tiny house warriors will be raised directly with the Premier during that meeting. We are hopeful that these meetings will help advance the needs of the region further and hoping to get some additional wins with Victoria. In regards to utility system funding, we are connecting with some counterparts in the federal government, specifically with Minister Gregor Robertson, who is the federal Minister of Infrastructure, to see if there's any federal funding that we might be able to secure when it comes to small water utility systems. That's all from me, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have, oh, Director O'Reilly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just through the CAO. The only thing missing for me, very big event on Sunday for all of our residents in the TNRD, but the Grey Cup happened. And I didn't see an analysis in there of what you thought of the game and more importantly, where you think the Rough Riders will fall next year. But I do look forward. I know maybe it was a short time frame, but if you could really provide that would be help for the board and all of our residents. Thank you.
Through Chair Roden, thank you. I expected something, but the helmet says it all. Thanks.
I think he should have brought a tray of watermelon in for us all, but he didn't. Director Sarai.
Tractor. Manager Corbin, you mentioned you're meeting the Minister of Transportation on highway safety, on enforcement. Last year, we did a notice of motion through the TNRD, and part of that transportation trucking industry was enforcement. Is it possible that we can combine that ask and see where that notice of motion is on all of those aspects of highway safety that we put forward?
Through to the chair to Director Sarai, just to clarify, that was the notice of motion regarding, it was more specifically around commercial truck traffic. I can certainly follow up and see where things are at. Yeah, for sure.
Director Onslow.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that you're meeting regarding the tiny house warriors, and I sure hope that that does go somewhere for our community. Just recently, I was told by an advisor at Trans Mountain that our community was not considered for one of their meetings for their the proposal to add value to the pipeline because of the tiny house warriors and security threats. So Trans Mountain is still identifying this as an issue, even though the provincial government does not seem to see it as an issue. So I appreciate that. And the other thing on the small water advocacy, I feel that you could use Blue River as a very good example because our community has managed to save some money and we were supposed to have water main replacement done this year. And the cost estimate to do that has doubled. So a community with 167 users is now expected to spend $400,000 for a couple of blocks of water main. How is that even possible? So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Director Houghton, did I see your hand go up or no? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Item 12.1.2, as previously alluded to, has been removed. It was here in error. It was actually a presentation to the EA directors this morning. 12.1.3, Spark BC grant application, Chase Library accessible book drop. Thank you, Director Ranta, seconded by Director Onslow. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. 12.1.4, mosquito control services for electoral area B. Director Onslow, would you like to make that motion? Oh, just for information. All right. There was a lot of information there about mosquitoes, and I was going to make everyone do a test about the genus and phylum of at least 5 different mosquito breeds found there, but then I decided no. Anything there that anyone would talk about? Did you know there was that much to be said about mosquitoes? During mosquito season, most of what I say about mosquitoes, I could not repeat in front of polite company. All right, we move on to Enterprise Resource Planning Finance System Contract, item 12.1.5. We do have a recommendation here.
Move the recommendation.
Director O'Reilly, thank you. Seconded by Director Sarai. Discussion. Any discussion on this item? CFO Fox, do you have anything to add to the very comprehensive report that's here?
Thank you, Chair, through to the board. I don't have overly too much to add. I know it's been some time since we talked with the board about what's going on, and we were delayed because we did have 10 proponents. It ended up being a huge undertaking going through and comparing systems or what we wanted. We've ended in a place that we think will serve the TNRD well and possibly support other opportunities within the regional district, possibly with shared services. My thanks goes really to the team, but Corey has done just an incredible amount of work to get to this place and facilitate that for us, which would have been extremely hard for us to do off the sides of our desk. We picked a system that was quite a bit lower than what we thought we were going to have to. We want to keep the dollars on the table. We've laid out quite a detailed financial for you, just in the fact of talking to many other proponents that do this and making sure that we've taken all of those sorts of things into account to make sure we have enough time and resources to get this done. And I'm looking forward to working on this with the team over the next year. So if you have any questions, certainly we're here to answer them.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions regarding this item? Those nasty words I say about mosquitoes, our CFO has said them about Vadim over the years. Quite a lot. No, he doesn't swear, but I can tell what he's thinking. All right, no questions or comments on the motion then. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. We have for information, building permit activity report for October. Does anyone have any questions on that? All right, so we're moving on to new business. We have 2 items of new business of which I am aware. The first one comes via Director Houghton, and it is supported by a letter, a copy of a letter from MLA Lorne Dirksen, specifically regarding the state and maintenance of Tronquil Chris Creek Road. I understood that Director Houghton wanted to make a motion on Director Grenier's behalf about this, but now the scope has changed. So if you could please read out the proposed motion.
Okay, this all started, this motion, back when Director Grenier had a tour with the highways folks at the Tronquil Chris Creek Valley. And then I met with the highways folks at the weigh scales over the weigh in motion on Highway 5A. And I talked to both Graham and to Sam, and our rural roads in all the Kamloops region, to me, haven't been looked after for a number of years. They really clawed back on the state of there's no paving being done, and there's hardly any graveling being done. And I said, how can I, as a director, help you? Because I'm always after you for graveling this road and that road and that road. He said, put forward a letter to the minister asking to increase the available monies to the Kamloops Highways region substantially. At present, it's 1.5 million. And on Director Grenier's request and what we talked about earlier, we'd like to bump that ask to 3.5 million per year within the Kamloops region. Now, this letter that's enclosed, I phoned Director Grenier earlier today and to clarify his wishes and his needs, and the extra 500,000 that MLA Dirksen has asked to add to the region, according to Director Grenier, is incorrect. That was supposed to be added to the Tronquil Chris Creek road maintenance. So it's kind of two separate ones. My ask is to increase to the minister from 1.5 to 3.5 so we can get our rural roads within the Kamloops region in a better state of repair.
So as you say, there really are two distinct asks, and there's a danger that the Tronquil Chris Creek Road, which I know Director Grenier is very passionate about, there is a danger of that getting swallowed up and lost inside the bigger ask, which is the increase in the roads budget for the region. So it's my understanding that you would like this to be mentioned on the advocacy trip next week as well?
If
Okay.
it's possible, Madam Chair.
Corporate Officer Jeremiah, what's the best way to do this? Would it be for Director Houghton to make two motions, two separate items under new business?
We do have confirmation from staff that this will be brought up at the advocacy tour. So I'm not sure if staff feel that a resolution for that would be required. No? Okay, so we just require one motion then for, unless we're, sorry, I might be missing something here. I apologize. Let's stick with the two resolutions or the two motions just to be safe and ensure that everything is recorded as needed. Thank you.
So Director Houghton, first of all, you'd like to make a motion that $500,000 be added to the budget specifically for Tronquil Chris Creek Road.
That is Director Grenry's request, yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
So the motion that we are being asked to support a letter asking to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, asking that $500,000 be added to the budget for roadworks in the area and that be specifically allocated to doing work on Tronquil Chris Creek Road.
Yes, that is,
Okay.
like I said earlier, Director Grenry's request. And
Okay.
yeah.
So you'll make that motion. Who would like to second it? Second, Director Smith, thank you very much. All right, discussion that we send a letter to the province asking for an increase specifically for Tronquil Chris Creek Road. No discussion? All those in favor then? Anyone opposed?
Yeah.
Opposed? Director O'Reilly's opposed. Thank you. That's carried. And then Director Houghton, you have a second item of new business.
The new motion or?
Yep, the new motion regarding an overall increase
Okay.
to the budget.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. We raise in the Kamloops region the rural road graveling maintenance budget from 1.5 to 3.5 million. And I'd like to send a letter to the Ministry of Transport and Transit to that effect.
So we can't increase it obviously, but we're going to ask the ministry to increase the budget.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So moved by Director Houghton, seconded by Director Sarai. Any discussion on this? Director Karpak.
Thank you, Chair. It seems one of the unasked question is whether actually they're meeting service levels they're supposed to be meeting right now. Because each of these roads is classified depending on use under the ministry guidelines. So I believe Chris Creek Road is a Class C rural road because it's a bus route. And therefore there would be certain standards, but we're not asking them to review that. It seems like if the work isn't being done, then what's the point of asking for money? Because they're still not doing the work. So perhaps part of this should be, is the ministry actually meeting the standards on our rural roads and who's reviewing that? Just a comment.
Director Sal?
Just a question to Director Houghton. So it was the local area MOTT managers, Mr. Pantaleo and Mr. Schimpf, who advised that, if you ask the ministry to increase this $2 million, we would get better graveling above and beyond the contract service level.
I'll explain how the graveling works. We had some done on Weir Road in Knutsford, and that is an over and above the maintenance that is normally done by Argo Road Maintenance. And it's the ministry gives Argo the gravel and says, go put it on there on that section of the road. When you're out of gravel, That's it. And that's the same thing they did up in Robbins Range lately. So Director Grenier talked to the staff of the ministry on the Chris Creek Road, but when I talked to the staff at the weigh scales westbound, I asked him, I said, how can, because I'm always after him to gravel this road and gravel that road. He says, Doug, we can't do hardly anything with the money we have. So he says, if you could ask for an increase in the rural road graveling maintenance budget, that could give us more money to do the other roads that we need to get done. So I just picked the figure. I said, went from 1.5 to 3.5, and they might get something out of the deal. But the graveling is over and above their normal contract in most cases.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Second item of new business, we have a request from Director Hayward, which I understand has now been circulated to everyone.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Mayor Kerslake and the District of Barrier for bringing this forward to myself as TNRD Area Road Director of Lewis Creek. So I am putting forward the following time-sensitive resolution: that the TNRD Board of Directors send a letter in support to the District of Barrier's request that TELUS extend its planned Fiber Connect service area in Barrier to include the Lewis Creek Industrial Park, LCIP, along with the TNRD Lewis Creek Eco Depot, the community of Lewis Creek, and SIMP IR4, and that the board support the District of Barrier's request that TELUS pursue cell coverage enhancements through solutions such as microcells within the Lewis Creek area.
Okay, so Director Hayward making that motion. You'd like to second it, Director Thorpe. Thank you. Discussion.
Mayor Kerslake.
Director Kerslake.
I'll just speak to this a little bit. So after many years of advocacy, we're finally getting fiber and Barrier. And this is just only 3 kilometers from the center of town. So and Director Hayward could tell you that service is terrible down there. So we'd just like some support. Our ask will carry a little more weight with the support of the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, on the question, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you.
What's it?
And Director Houghton, it is, oh, sorry. Are there any other items of new business? Almost forgot. Director Ranta.
Yeah, thank you. Earlier this week, I received the MFA's quarterly member newsletter, and the Municipal Finance Authority is a fabulous organization that I'm proud to serve on. And it says here, if you're a current member and wish to continue on, we encourage you to express your interest to your regional board chair. I'm expressing that interest. Also, in this, as of October 22nd, MFA has completed the debt issuance program for the year, raising almost $2 billion to finance long-term capital projects for BC local governments. Their collective borrowing infrastructure results in the lowest cost of financing available to any municipality in Canada. So it is undoubtedly a fabulous outfit. They're proud to be long-term sponsors of UBCM events, including the annual conference Community Excellence Awards, Chair and CAO Conference. The MFA is also a founding member of the Local Government Leadership Academy, as well as the Local Government Leadership Academy Annual Forum. It's interesting to note that under Community Excellence Awards, there's a mention here that Cache Creek won the Excellence in Governance Award this year, which we were very proud of. Had absolutely nothing to do with me, but we were still proud of it. MFA is looking forward to supporting the LGLA Annual Forum which takes place at the Radisson Airport, Vancouver Hotel, March 11th to 13th, 2026. So I thought you'd be interested in knowing some of those details. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will just say, I've had an opportunity to follow it, and if you have not taken a look at the Village of Cache Creek's dedicated area of their website, looking at all the various projects they've undertaken since the flooding event, particularly the one from 2 years ago, it is a wonderful, wonderful resource. Credit to the village for that forward thinking, to CAO Couture, for everyone who put it together. It is a fantastic example of how to be transparent and communicate with your residents on very complex matters that people have a lot of questions about. It's just showing every single project that's being undertaken, exactly where they are in the process, all the details. It really is good. So if you haven't taken a look, I'd urge you to do that. It is a really good, I think, example for a lot of local governments about how they can do this sort of communication very effectively and easily, relatively. Thank you. I say easily, I could never design a website to save my life, so congratulations to those who have. All right, any other items of new business? All right, seeing no hands up, Director Houghton, for your notice of motion, and I understand that you're going to read the entire notice of motion just to remind us of it.
Oh, we want to get going home, so I won't be long. I've been on the Noxious Weeds Committee since we started on the board 3 years ago, and it's kind of a something that I take a great interest in, being from the ranching industry and knowing how noxious weeds don't have any boundaries, and they spread everywhere in this day and age with the road traffic that we have and all the industrial traffic that we have. And I've observed that back in 72, when the NDP government of the day expanded the boundaries of the city of Kamloops, I think none of us had a say in it. And I think they just took a big magic circle around all the rural areas and said, this is where the city of Kamloops is going to be for the next 100 years, and here we go. There's a lot of rural properties outside the city of Kamloops and boundaries itself, the neighborhood boundaries. There's a lot of rural properties like Knutsford, Heffley Creek, Barnhart Vale, Iron Mask that are rural, but they're part of the city, and they cannot partake the way the other electoral areas can in the noxious weed program that we have, the loan out program, the cost sharing program. And I've observed, especially in my area, that up in Knutsford, that and I took Director Fry up there. I think I mentioned this before during the Volvo commercial, and I explained to Bill that on this side of Rose Hill Road is city, on this side is TNRD, but you know, the weeds don't stop at the middle of Rose Hill Road. They go everywhere. And I would, I think it's, I would like to see the city of Kamloops reconsider it. And here's my notice of motion to be part of the invasive plant program. The TNRD invasive plant program was historically funded solely by the 10 electoral areas. In 2020, the TNRD provided member municipalities with the option to participate in the program through a proposal sent to all member municipalities. As a result, 5 member municipalities, Clinton, Sun Peaks, Merritt, Clearwater, and Logan Lake, joined the TNRD invasive plant program beginning in 2021. This gave their residents access to funding for the treatment of weeds on private land and supported the regional approach to preventing weed spread, as weeds don't stop at municipal boundaries. The city of Kamloops has many rural properties within their own boundaries that either have or are threatened by an infestation of invasive plants. Properties within the city of Kamloops are not eligible for funding assistance through the TNRD invasive plant program, as they don't participate in this service. This includes properties in Knutsford, Barnhart Vale, Dallas, Iron Mask, Heffley Creek, and West Side Road. Therefore, my notice of motion is that the TNRD board requests that the city of Kamloops reconsider opting into the TNRD invasive plant service. Thank you.
Okay. So moved by Director Houghton, seconded by Director Hayward. Any discussion on this? Director Thorpe?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I would like to add the non-participating municipalities, namely Chase, Cache Creek, Ashcroft, Lytton, and Barrier into this motion. I sit on the invasive plants committee as well. And once you sit on that committee, you never look at a community the same. Trust me. And I think that the other municipalities should also be given some consideration as to whether they want to opt into this program. So I would like to amend that notice of motion, please.
So we have a proposed amendment, seconder for the amendment. Director Onslow, thank you. All right, so discussion on the amendment, which is to add the 5 municipalities which do not, in addition to the city of Kamloops, which do not currently participate in the program, that they be sent a notice asking them to reconsider. Any discussion on this amendment? On the amendment? Yep.
I don't know if it would be on the amendment or if it would be back to the original, but maybe it applies to both. So what is the cost for these municipalities to sign on to or opt into this program? Is there an actual dollar value figure that can be attributed with the ask?
Mr. Vieira and then Director Hall.
Yeah, so through the chair, there's a full proposal that was created back in 2020. So if this is approved, what we would do is resubmit that proposal to all the municipalities for them to reconsider. But at a high level, the way the proposal was structured was a percentage of the budget. The invasive plant budget would be funded by the municipalities participating, but it's a smaller percentage, recognizing that the majority of the dollars used for operating the invasive plant program are in the electoral areas. So I believe just give me 1 minute and I'll pull it up and tell you the exact numbers. Yeah, that depending on the size of the municipalities, the under 1,000 were contributing 1.5% of the budget. The ones between 1,000 and 5,000 was 2.5% of the budget. Over 5,000 under 50 was 4.5, and then over 50,000, which would be Kamloops, would be a maximum of 9% of the budget. I think the tax rate for this year is around the $350,000 mark. But again, if this was going forward, there'd be a fulsome proposal that we'd resend to the municipalities to consider.
A supplemental then, so if we have a budget right now for this, and then we have municipalities opt in, are they only paying a portion of that existing budget, or does the budget increase to allow for more service or more dollars available in that budget to do the actual work? So that would be just like, if we're saying 1.5 of, just say it was a $300,000 budget, but then by adding them in, they pay a portion of the 300,000, does that reduce the TNRD's expense and there's less money available, or there's only the same amount of money available to do more work? Or does that actually increase the budget, the TNRD's available funds to be part of that program? And then I'm going to have one more question after that.
Yeah, through the chair, we would increase the budget, but we wouldn't necessarily increase the budget by the same amount that was being contributed. So we'd increase the budget based on what we think the extra cost to the service would be based on the municipalities joining in. So how many more rebate applications do we expect to get if Ashcroft joined the service area, and then we would increase the budget that way accordingly. So it's not an exact dollar for dollar. Because there's a lot of benefit that goes, the idea is there's a region-wide benefit, whether the weeds are being treated within the municipal boundary or at the border, the entire region is benefiting is the philosophy.
Okay, thank you for that information. And just one last question. I mean, we had a policy and governance meeting here earlier in the week. Part of that discussions were regarding policy that exists and needs a look at. And potentially, is this something that could be added into that policy so that it doesn't become a on occasion, or if you feel like a thing, if that there's some way to sort of attain some longevity in the program as opposed to having to continually go back and try and, put municipalities in. The next year they decide they don't want in and it might become a little bit fragmented. So that's just my thought is I don't know if there isn't a way that we can sort of ensure that this happens throughout our region and not just in one or two municipalities only. So that, just my thought on that. Thank you.
You mean some mechanism whereby every couple of years we could revisit the question and invite municipalities in that have not decided to join?
Well, something where if we recognize it as being a regional area and like say invasive plants don't know where the boundaries are, is there some way at the TNRD to somewhat mandate a little more than just a nice ask or a would you please? Sir, Mr. Vieira?
Well, yeah, I guess I could provide some comment on that. And I heard the comment. Yeah, I mean, the TNRD can't mandate municipalities to join a service. So what we did in 2020 was propose this is a regional benefit and made the pitch. I did a road trip around every municipality to explain, what the benefit was and why we were proposing this. And at the time, half the municipalities decided to opt in, the other half didn't. So that's where it sat until this recommendation is being brought forward requesting that those municipalities reconsider. But from a legislative point of view, the TNRD board can't set a policy that that the municipalities must join the services unless they're obligated through legislation on specific ones. But no, invasive plants is not one of them.
So any other questions or comments on the amendment? Director Hall? The amendment being to add the 5 small rural communities that are not currently part of the program.
I'll wait until the other.
Okay. So the amendment is to add the 5 communities that are not currently part of the invasive plant program, along with the city of Kamloops, that they all be sent a letter saying, hey, we'd love to have you in the club. All right. So on the amendment then, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, the amendment is carried. So now the notice of motion is that therefore my notice of motion is that the TNRD board requests the city of Kamloops and the other 5 communities, Ashcroft, Cache Creek, and 3 others whose names escape me, opting into the TNRD invasive plant service. So that is now the motion we are discussing. Director Hall.
Thank you. Just, are you okay, Director Bass? I just need a point of clarification, if you wouldn't mind, Director Houghton, is you had mentioned in your discussion with respect to the notice of motion that in the event that Kamloops joins, and we do have a invasive noxious weed problem within Kamloops. I think Director Middleton would attest to that with a recent notice of motion that she put forward in the city of Kamloops. And you had mentioned that if we came on side, private property owners could apply for use. Could you give me some understanding how that is adjudicated?
I can tell you from experience how it works. I'm talking about the rural areas. I'm not talking about a lawn in downtown Kamloops. I'm talking about the land I see out in the rural parts of the riding within the boundaries of the city is take ours place in Knutsford that's within electoral area L. I had some helicopter spraying done on behalf of, by Purity Feeds, and they get, say the bill was $6,000. You get, it was a lot more than that, it was more like 15, but you get a maximum, I believe, of $3,000 per landowner back as a cost share towards eradicating the weeds. This year I had a licensed sprayer from Merritt, Bruno, come and did a bunch of noxious weed spraying on my place, and I contributed the bill, and my cost share back was $1,008. And you get a cost share, and Jamie can explain how it works. It gives you access to all the equipment that Purity Feeds have on behalf of the TNRD to go and treat it yourself if you want at no charge, or if you get a custom applicator, you get a cost share back as an aid in helping prevent weeds on your rural property.
Thank you. So just maybe an explanation from staff how that would be applied in municipality.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to explain it is going backwards. So if, and we've had this before, that a rural property within the city of Kamloops finds out about the cost share program the TNRD administers, they submit a request, a 50% cost share request, because they spent $2,000 treating invasive plants on their own private property. We check all the properties, we realize it's within the city of Kamloops boundaries. Let's say it's on Rose Hill Road within the city of Kamloops. We can't fund that. We deny it because they're not paying into the pot. They can't utilize it. If the city joined the service, then those properties would be eligible for that rebate program. So that's one of the programs. We also, as Director Houghton said, we run a sprayer loan out equipment loan out program for seeding equipment, for spraying equipment for those people doing their own treatments on their own property. They can borrow that equipment free of charge. Again, they're not eligible to borrow it if they're not within a property that participates in the service.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Director Sa.
Thank you, Chair. And just sharing some experience with invasive weeds in Area A, in addition to just, the fact that they're invasive, there's other benefits. For example, there is a property in Area A where invasive weeds has blocked a water course. Now it's creating flooding in the neighboring properties. Now, under provincial guidelines, you're not allowed to work on the waterway. However, working with staff, there's the not gray area. It is allowed to go in there and treat if it's the promise of invasive weeds. So there's additional benefits that becomes an additional tool in the toolbox to deal with flood issues. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Vera, if you could just for the benefit of the people who are new here, because this was 2020 that we talked about it, for the municipalities, which of course do not have large acreages in them by and large, I know up in Clinton, for example, they did weed pulls. They were able to identify invasive plants. So if you have a ordinary residential lot and you're not quite sure what that weird green thing is, people could come in and identify it for you and tell you what it was and whether it was invasive. So maybe, Mr. Vera, you just give like a 30-second why it's a great idea. I'm really sorry that Ashcroft didn't go into it. I voted for it.
Through the chair or to the chair, yeah, you mean why the program is beneficial? Yeah, so it focuses the majority of the money we collect through taxation goes directly back to private property owners to treat weeds on their own property. All the work that we do in coordination with the province for treating weeds on Crown land is funded by the province. And as you know, on this board, we're often advocating the province spend more money. So for example, going back to the rebate program, typically of that $350,000 budget, we typically take $100,000 of that and it goes directly back to rebates paid to landowners. But I guess on a broader scale, the benefit of it and the reason that back in 2020, and now again, I would still say the benefit of a regional program is the weeds don't know any boundaries. Once you get them on your property, it's a lot harder to get them off. It devalues property, it devalues production of agricultural land. And as Chair Roden mentioned, one of the components of the program is our education awareness program. We do field days, multiple field days throughout the region every year to try help educate and inform people on why they should be concerned, what they should be aware of. And I guess that's also one of the clunky things. We can't check people's ID when they're coming to a field day to learn about invasive plants, but we have some people who are maybe coming from a participating area and don't. Obviously, we'd never do that, but it would be nice if, you know, all the municipalities participated in the regional service.
And Director Hall?
Thank you. I appreciate the education. Is there a minimum lot size that is applicable to this particular program?
No, there's not a limited lot size. However, it has to be like for the rebate program specifically, it has to be a listed noxious weed species. So we're not talking about spraying dandelions. And it's got to be done by a licensed applicator. So it's not the lot size as much as what the treatment recommendation is and if it fits within the confines of the program. So it could be applicable on small lots. So for example, things like hogweed, which can be invasive in city lots, this program would be applicable there as well.
And sorry, there's a program too that you can take advantage of where different insects are brought in to go after other nasty insects. Is that correct? I'm paraphrasing greatly here.
Through the chair, the insects are going after the invasive plants, not other insects. So it's a biocontrol program. And the province did a lot of this work about 20, 30 years ago, brought in insects that are the natural predators of these plants from where they originated, mostly in Asia, and did an extensive kind of testing and research before introducing them. So they've been introduced widely into the province. And what our program does is we go out to the known areas where these insects are already established populations and collect them and bring them to other properties to try help boost the population in those areas. So the way I usually explain it, it doesn't eradicate a weed infestation if you bring in the biocontrol insects, but what it does is it greatly helps control the spread of it. It reduces the vigor and health of the plant, reduces seed production, and prevents further spread. So again, it's one of the tools depending on what the treatment recommendation is for a certain area. Director Sal mentioned riparian areas. You can't spray herbicide near a riparian area, so you can use biocontrol as an option.
I knew it was insects doing something good. Director Morris.
I will be very brief. An example, Lafarge as an example, which is basically my fence line neighbor, pretty darn close. Does the program, and I'm sorry, I should know this, but you know, it's 2 years ago, I think, since I thought carefully about this again. But if you have an industrial neighbor, for sure, and Lafarge would be one of the good examples. And next, obviously, acreage over is, you know, a nice grassy kind of area with cattle hanging out on it. Is there any crossover within our program that will recognize that there is that wind carrying capacity that happens that we can add in terms of sort of encouraging people to also, can we say, okay, Lafarge, you sent that our way, can we send you a bill if you're part of the sort of municipal infrastructure? You don't even have to answer it, but it certainly creates a question for anybody, that good old fringe word that we're using all the time, that we're on the fringe in many cases with city properties adjacent these more rural ones.
Yeah, I can provide one comment on that. I mean, provincial legislation actually requires all property owners to manage weeds on their land. There actually is a Weed Control Act that states just that. And I guess I don't know if it's directly answer your question, but what we do within our program is if they're, the first step when there's a complaint about a property is then we can go to them as a, hey, here's the good news. Do you know that you're eligible for these rebates? You have these weeds, we can identify them for you, give you a treatment recommendation, and fill out this paperwork, you get 50% of the cost back.
So sorry, yeah, it was tied more to basically an industrial neighbor and whether there was anything there. So we can have that conversation offline. It just sparked a thought. Thanks.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, on the motion as amended, then all those in favor?
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We have no other notices of motion, so we move on to question period. I'm looking at the gallery. I don't see any hands. Is there anyone online who has any questions about any item on today's agenda? Corporate Officer Jeremiah?
Thank you, Chair. It appears that we have one hand up from Ms. Pearson.
Okay, Ms. Pearson, do you have an item on today's agenda that you wish to speak to?
It's not on today's agenda, but I've been asking for an appeal for.
All right, I'm afraid if you can give me an item on today's agenda, the agenda item number, then you can speak to that. Otherwise, there are no questions allowed unless it's regarding an item on the agenda. Do you have any questions about today's agenda? No? I don't believe Ms. Pearson had any questions about today's agenda items. So seeing no other hands raised. Pardon me? Her hands up again? No, I do not believe that Ms. Pearson has any intention of talking about any items on today's agenda. Ms. Pearson, if you do have an agenda item, this would be the time to do it. Otherwise, we are going to move on to the next item. Pardon me? Which agenda item was that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Just making sure that you're refusing to actually take this.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on to item number 16, closed meeting. I'm going to move that the meeting be closed under Community Charter Section 91C, Labor Relations or Other Employee Relations.
Second.
Director O'Reilly seconds that. All those in favor? Is
Yeah.
anyone opposed? That's carried. We'll 5 minutes and Director Bass, someone will instruct you how to sign back in for the closed meeting.
Got it.